What is the main research area you are investigating in the learning sciences field?
It is basically visual cognition and eye tracking since the past 10 years or so. I also teach machine learning and I try to bring this expertise together with, machine learning, modeling and reading and visual cognition.
What is the most influential text that has been published about your topic?
I think Oxford handbooks are very influential. Especially Oxford Handbook of Eye Movements. This is one resource, and the book itself, another one is called Eye Tracking, which was published by MIT or Cambridge University Press, as I remember. The author was Kenneth Holmquist. And as for multimedia learning, there is a book with the same name, Multimedia Learning, which is also an influential book. It has two editions from 2001 and 2005. So these are influential resources.
Why is your topic important for the learning sciences?
So your question was, why is this topic important for learning sciences? And the quick answer is that learning is too complex to learn or to investigate. So the processes inside the mind brain, they are so complex that it is impossible to understand learning from the perspective of a single framework. It includes methodology as well. For instance, when you use eye tracking to understand the course of learning, let's say the time course of learning, you have to be careful about interpreting your data, the data recording, and you have to triangulate your results by other methods. So this is because basically, then to make it short, it is a complex domain to study, and visual cognition gives let me say high granularity online data, which is kind of repeatable. Then you get closer to scientific methodology if you use these methods.
What research methodologies are you using in your research?
In visual cognition, eye tracking is typical. This is one of the nice methods to study, but eye movements are difficult to interpret as well. Therefore, you have to employ other methods. For instance, you may ask comprehension questions to your participants to understand whether they had reached the expected level of learning outcomes, let me say. Therefore, you may want to use, for instance, recall questions, transfer questions, retention questions, and try to integrate this with online data.
What are your recommendations for students and early career researchers interested in working on your topic?
Well, if you want to study visual cognition first, it is relatively easy to collect data. If you have the equipment, you can collect megabytes, terabytes of data points. That's fine, but it is difficult to interpret data because you don't know what's happening inside the mind and brain. Therefore, you have to collect data from different sources, by using different methodologies. For instance, if you are conducting an eye tracking test, you have to collect data also for understanding comprehension by asking questions, recall answers, retention answers, and transfer questions, for instance. Then you start getting an idea what is really happening. This is one thing. And another important thing is that you have to be able to repeat your data collection. And someone else should be able to repeat it without your help. Therefore, you have to write down your methods explicitly. And one final thing to note is that you have to check whether your data makes sense or not, because equipments make mistakes easily. They are usually erroneous. There is noise in equipment recordings. Therefore, you have to make sure that the data you collect makes sense. Therefore, these are brief recommendations, and make your hands dirty as fast as possible, as early as possible. Learn how to conduct and run an experiment and how to interpret